So welcome to our first MySec Lansing talk. Woo. So how many people here are familiar with MySec? Or been to a MySec meeting? Maybe? All right. So MySec in general as a group, we're a very open community where if you have an interest that you want to talk about something, this is the group to come talk. If you want to do a lightning talk, like a 10-minute talk, or you want to try and do a 45-minute talk on a topic that you find a lot of interest in, definitely come see us. Talk to James, talk to myself. If you reach out to us on Twitter, we'll try and get you into the cycle and try and get talking. We try and bring as many interesting talks as we can find on the internet and people that we know. So if you know people that would be a good speaker or really interesting, definitely point them our way, and we'll try and get going. We also do a lot of volunteering. Coming up is GERCON. I don't know if they need any volunteers, but we're going to have a MySec booth there. And so if you're interested in helping out MySec a little bit, we need some people to kind of just sit behind the booth and throw out stickers, and we'll probably give you Nerf guns, who knows. So if you're...
They do still need volunteers.
Do they for GERCON?
Last week, yeah.
Oh yeah, so if you're interested in volunteering, definitely reach out to GERCON. I don't know their tweet. You probably either tweet out to them or...
Yeah, you can tweet them. I think it's Jenny Monroe's in charge of volunteering stuff.
Okay, yep. So there's definitely opportunity there if you want to do that. That's always great, because especially when you're doing volunteer work for a conference, because you run into all sorts of people, you make a lot of contacts, a lot of networking, so it's really worth your time to do it. Do I have anything else to say around this?
No.
That's it. I turn it over to you.
Good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Caleb. This is Chelsea. We're a part of the CBI Academy, which is a internship program that they have, and this is our project, which we did kind of as a part of that. It was our dessert or capstone project. We learned some really great stuff, and we just want to bring it here and share it with you guys.
So CBI is an IT risk management company, and so we just kind of had to do some sort of project that interested us, and so we came up with this project that we call Falcon. And so today we're just going to be talking about what exactly is Falcon and how it works, the benefits of it. We'll be talking about Wi-Fi devices and probes, which is just how Wi-Fi devices talk to each other, and then some problems that we ran into and how we solved them.
Exactly. Okay, so starting off, what is Falcon? This is a Linux-based wireless device radar. So what we're trying to do is, what? Oh, gotcha. Thanks, man. Yeah, no problem. So it's a Linux wireless device radar. The idea is we wanted to create something that could locate devices when you came in within proximity to it. So that way you could get alerted to these blacklisted devices. In the future, we'd like to do whitelisted, but we're still working on some of the kinks of that guy.
This is a bit of a proof of concept idea. It's not a fully fleshed out project. What it does is it'll compare MAC addresses on your blacklist to the MAC addresses that are being seen by your device. So it'll be picking up anything that's nearby, and it'll go, hey, are any of these MAC addresses matches? And when it finds a match, it will let you know. It's not anything that's going to be officially built out professionally. It's just our proof of concept just to see if we could do it.
We've got some cool functionality to it, but we'll get to that in a minute. All right, so Chelsea mentioned earlier how we use probes to do this. When we started out, we kind of had a hazy idea on how Wi-Fi connectivity worked and the actual starting of connections between the Wi-Fi routers and the mobile devices, whether it was laptops, cell phones, or tablets. So ours works by listening for those probes that the devices send out, and then kind of on the side passively receiving those. So we're not doing any sort of connections. We're just hearing what's coming in and checking against our blacklist to see if we have any matches to that. Once we find a match, we can then alert either through the on-screen prompt or using a couple other technologies, which if this then that, which we'll be able to dive into in a little bit here.
So here's the front of our Falcon device. It's this is what it looks like. It's got our tripwire mode, which is our blacklist mode, and then we have our watchdog mode, which is our whitelist mode. It's not fully built out right now, but that's what we're working on in the future. Our Falcon mode on there is a bonus, so if you get your hands on our project, you can look at our Falcon mode. It's pretty fun to look at.
And get your hands on it. We'll have an email at the end, which you're more than welcome to request the code, or if you have any questions or comments on it, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. Like Chelsea said, we do have Tripwire Watchdog. it's under construction that has no functionality yet. That's one of the problems we're working on and we'd like to be able to build out later. So something really cool that Chelsea was able to bring to the team was talking about if this then that. Just quick show of hands, is anybody familiar with if this then that? Okay, cool. Pretty good portion. She has like 50%.
About less than 50%.
Okay, we had a bet on if there'd be more or less than 50%. So if this then that is an automation tool. The idea is that you can have a single event be able to tie in and trigger many other events. So with Falcon, what we wanted to do was essentially be able to get out of our box. The way we have it set up now, it's, has basic alerting and it will say, hey, you have an event. But that's not really useful if you're not at your device right then and there. So what we're doing is we are using if this then that to get a curl request to get out of our box onto the internet, and from there do a huge range of things. You can send text messages, you could tweet yourself, you could play your own theme music when you got home, whatever you want to do. Basically, if it is on the internet, you can get this to connect to it. We use that curl request, and you get an actual link that when you set up your account, you can have that curl request and it'll give you a key. And our code will actually send past the variable. Thank you. It'll pass the variable to give you your MAC addresses, which is actually going to be our next slide here, demonstrating how that works.
So here's what it looks like once you find a MAC address. It'll always say monitoring for wireless devices, please wait. And then once you find one, it prints out the date and time of when you found it. That little red box is where the MAC address will appear, and it'll say, congratulations, you fired the Falcon event. So what you'll get is right now what we have is set up with email. So an email address is receiving an email. It has the MAC address and the date that you received it. You'll get one of these every so often, but you'll only get a notification in email if there's a new MAC address. So if you have more than one MAC address in your blacklist, every time you find a new one on your blacklist, you'll get an email. So you're not getting spammed with, hey, this guy's on your near your network over and over and over again.
Exactly. And as you find more, it'll print off the list of how many MAC addresses you have and do another congratulations you fired. Whoops, I didn't mean to push that button yet. So the only way to reset that so you can then find those items on the blacklist is just to turn off the program and turn it back on. I don't have a clean or reset function at this point. So some of the benefits of Falcon. We designed this with portability in mind. I mentioned that it was a Linux system. We built it using bash scripting, so that way it'd be very versatile. You can use it in a lot of places and very simple to use and develop further. Like we said, we want to be able to have other people come in and be a part of this, so that way we can get feedback and build it out. It's adaptable to almost any device. So since we built it using Kali Linux, if you can run Kali on on whatever box you have, you can run this program. Using if this then that allows us to build out beyond the physical box and make it much more diverse for notifications. Cover on that?
Yeah, that's pretty good. So basically, in order to use this, you're going to need Linux. That's what we built ours on. Kali is what we used. So if you're not going to be using Kali, you're going to need AeroDump because that's what we use on our back end in order to make all of this work. So if you're using some other flavor of Linux, you're going to want AeroDump on there. You'll need a wireless adapter that supports monitor mode. So usually your built-in wireless on your laptop's not going to work. Just an external wireless adapter works fine. We use like a $20 one. Being able to run bash scripts. And internet connection if you want if this then that to work. If you want it to just tell you, hey, here's your MAC address. If you're going to be sitting at your laptop or whatever you're using and you're just watching it and you don't need to worry about, sending yourself an email, then you can just not have an internet connection and it'll work perfectly fine. And that's the best part about if this and that is that you can just have it do whatever you want.
Exactly. All right. So Wi-Fi devices and probes. This is really the meat of the project for us. This was both our biggest problem and where we learned the most. So how does a device connect to a network? We kind of found that there were two main categories. There were the ones that just sat there listening, waiting for a Wi-Fi router to try to connect to it. And there were devices that were shouting, saying, hey, I'm right here, connect to me, I'm right here, looking for either any device any network or ones that had been a part of. That's mostly your tablets and your phones. Those are going to be the ones that are broadcasting, looking for connections versus your laptops, which are going to be passively sitting there. So initially we had to do a lot of troubleshooting and testing in order to figure that out. Falcon uses this by sitting on the side, listening and hearing kind of man on the side style where you're just receiving whatever you can hear and being able to use that information however you will.
So we ran into some problems, obviously, as you're going to do with if you're going through any new project. A couple challenges. One was, obviously, if your Wi-Fi is off, we're not going to be able to see you. We also ran into the issue of different beaconing timings. So sometimes we would always get the same MAC address over and over again. It always happened to be my phone. My phone's just constantly throwing out just like, hey, can I connect to you? Other phones, not so much. So we were not able to find a couple phones, and we're still working on trying to figure out why that is. But
And it wasn't even really like a iPhone Android issue because you and Jake both have iPhones and we'd have trouble with both of those.
yeah, it really depended on this phone. So it was one of those things where we're not quite sure how it was working. So we would find one phone all the time, or sometimes we'd just find no phones for 20 minutes and then all of a sudden one would appear.
Yeah, I think we even had one phone appear that wasn't even in the country. So we don't know how that one happened either. So some future plans that we're going to do with this product, we'd really like to build a whitelist mode. That's that watchdog. So flipping it from detecting for devices that you don't want versus knowing when you have your own devices. The idea and concept behind it is if you have a home network that you want to know if someone else comes in the vicinity. So you're looking for anyone else that's around there. The problem being that you don't, come on in guys, no worries, grab a seat, we're kind of full. I think there's two over here. The biggest problem we're having with that is not detecting, it's kind of hard to get MAC addresses beforehand. Most people don't have those easily accessible or even know what those are. So we're having to find a way to either get them beforehand. If you're working for a company, that company's more likely to be able to get it, versus if you're private, how are you going to get those otherwise?
That was one of our challenges that also is turning into a future plan. We would like to have a feature where it would just populate a list of whatever MAC addresses you're seeing right now. So then you can say, hey, everything that's nearby me right now is fine. Anything that's not that, I don't want near me.
And then also building a database for that blacklist where you can name those devices. Like, oh, this is Chelsea's phone, this is Jake's phone, rather than a string of numbers and letters that you have to remember are associated with a person. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Jason.
So let's clarify a couple things here.
Okay.
So really what we're talking about is a detection device, right? When you're saying radar, we're saying, what can we see?
Absolutely.
So we're going from every part of the gamut, right? We're saying, okay, this could potentially be used as an ad hoc way of kind of telling your home automation systems that you're home, right? That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
You could have your girlfriend over and your other girlfriend shows up. You could have this tell you that she's within, many hundreds of feet of your house, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You could get real scary with it. You could say, if this particular MAC address belonging to this particular individual gets close to this bomb, blow it up, right? It's whatever you could dream up, this potentially has the power to do. So,
Exactly.
all right.
Or you could even use it to follow someone if you wanted to, or try to find someone in a vicinity wandering around with
Walk into a
something.
police station, capture all the Macs. Now, anytime a police officer is within 200-300 feet, yards, whatever. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Of these different modes, are the functionalities in these mode descriptions something that if you choose mode 1, 2, or 3, you're set with only being, the program is only looking for your whitelist, is only looking for your blacklist, or is only looking for new devices? Or is this something that you can let it operate passively and it's going to be able to, flow off into one of these different responses and say, oh, here, just sitting there to say, oh, by the way, a whitelisted phone has come through, one of your blacklisted phones has come through, and here's some new devices, and then just have it laid out for you? Or
We don't currently have it running both at the same time. That is obviously a feature that could be put into it. Our blacklist is working, whitelist isn't quite working yet, but once you have the whitelist going, I don't see why there wouldn't be an opportunity to build another white and blacklist combination.
Kind of a mixed mode.
Yeah.
Well, I was just, once the MAC address is acquired, couldn't you just check it against, your blacklist text and then your whitelist text, and if it's not another one, then it defaults to a new discovered device? Okay.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Any other questions? Terrific. And as we said, if you have anything A4, X4, by all means, give us a shout out. We can get you the code or any inputs or thoughts you have. We'd be more than welcome.
And if you'd like to see this talk again, it'll be at MySec Southfield tomorrow. Not from us, though.
Yeah,
the
we
other
got the other
our
half
team.
of the A team. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's fine. I think she's got one.
So we can actually record it. Just start over.
The internet connection we have is not so.
Still recording your voice.
Yes.
Sweet.
Oh, sweet. Connected.
Which one?
Hands on.
Yep.
Just over here though. Hey guys. Good. All right. Hey everyone. I'm Benjamin Carroll. Today I'll be teaching, not teaching. Sorry, talking. I've already messed up. Talking about learning security the hard way. And this, I just graduated college, and it's something I'm pretty passionate about. Schooling and learning. And I think there's some flaws in the system that I think need to be addressed. And hopefully you guys can get something out of this. So it's really going from student to a professional. First off, I want to thank MySec and their support. I gave this talk, very first talk I ever gave, I gave this at Converge B-Sides, and this year. And it was so well received, they asked me to do it again. So for a non-technical talk, I'm pretty proud of that. And I got to say, the knowledge in this room is pretty intimidating too. So this would be great. But this is why we do this. This talk is intended for college students. I did modify it since the last time I gave it a little bit to try to include points for people who are not college students, people who are in industry, and hopefully they can get a little bit more perspective of us that are coming into industry like CBI people just talked. And secondly, I like to be dynamic. If you guys have any questions at any time, if you want to stop me and say anything, please do. I love to talk. So, like I said, my name is Benjamin Carroll. I'm a recent graduate from Baker College of Jackson. My degree is in cyber defense. In my time there, I captained a pretty successful CCDC team. Does anyone know what CCDC is? Yeah. It's the Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition. Yeah, you know, because you guys are on my team. I did that for 3 years. Competed 4 times, won 4 trophies. It was great. It was fun. What did I actually learn out of that? That's debatable. Thirdly, I have experience in higher education. I was fortunate enough that when I went to school, I also worked there. So I did like IT help desk, running cables, got all that out of the way. But I did a lot of work with their administration and how to build the program better. Hopefully they listened to me. And I think they did. It's on the right course right now, and it's gonna be great. And also while I was there, I did have an opportunity to teach. So as a student, to work with administration as well as instruct, that's a pretty wide spectrum of everything in college. So I think I have a unique perspective that a lot of people don't have. Now I work at a large utility. I work at Consumers Energy. I interned in the SOC recently. Yeah, next to him. I also recently moved over to the critical infrastructure side, which is great. I have exposure to SCADA systems, NERC-CIP. NERC-CIP's great. Stuff like that. Yeah, shake your head. It's fun because it's challenging. It's not something I've ever really done before. Everyone knows what OT is? Overtime. It's operational technology. So basically when you go into a SCADA system or something like that, instead of IT, you're doing OT. And people like to compare them as the same thing. They aren't. They're both IT functions with 2 separate goals. So you really have to change the way you think when you walk into a critical infrastructure role. So moving forward, I would like to talk to you guys tonight about what InfoSec is like as a college student. what it's like as a professional, because it's very different. And as I just transitioned into industry, I'd like to tell you how to bridge the gap between it. I do know there's some students in here and people who aren't students, which I hope you can still give advice because you just got done with that. And then I also got advice from industry, and then I have some tips for industry. So the first part is your starting point, and basically this is your starting point. You don't know what you're doing. Everyone thinks they know what they're doing. You kind of not. But the real starting point that I like to think of is before college, and especially in InfoSec. So what you have is InfoSexy. And the reason I say that is when I was working at the college, I advertised InfoSexy. I would do the high schooler. When the high schoolers would come, I'd do the tours, and I'd be like, hey guys, you want to learn how to hack? You want to learn how to red team? You want to learn how to do all this stuff? And of course, everyone's like, yeah, we want to learn how to do that because that's the sexy thing to do. And then what would happen when they get into their degree? Or on my team, for that matter? I'd flip it on them. Sorry, you got to do blue team. They're like, well, what about the red team stuff? I'm like, I tricked you. But because of that, there's this large confusion. And I've talked to a lot of people that just graduated, and a lot of colleges do that. They advertise red team, and then you get into the college, and it's all blue team. Which, there's definitely a market for red team. Colleges don't really teach red team, and that's where the confusion is. There's a larger market for blue team, and you want to get over that confusion right away. Even though it's kind of blending in industry, it's not in college. It's black and white in college, and they need to put their foot down on that. The second thing is college is all theory, rightfully so. Every degree is theory. It's kind of hard to apply stuff in a classroom. However, I think that there's a very large gap between what you're learning in the classroom and what you're going to be doing in your career. So anyone who was in college or went to college, you ever work with a sim while you were in college? You can't really do that. You can't replicate a sim environment accurately. Yeah, I'm sure Jason could. At least in the college setting, because you need funding, you need stuff to do it. You need something to be the catalyst for that to happen. Jake, do you remember sim being mentioned in any of our books? No. See, that's another thing. Like, it just evolves so fast. And if it was a paragraph, and then you get out of your career and it's just like, oh, hey, so here's what a sim is. We're not going to teach you how to use it, which is actually a really good thing sometimes, because everyone uses a different sim. But at least the functions and how it works would have been great. Third thing you'll notice when you're in school is that it's very competitive. I mentioned the CCDC. And there's other competitions as well. But I was exposed to CCDC, so I'll mention them a lot. They've created a very inappropriate culture between colleges that I think is happening right now. And it really does need to be addressed, and I'll come back to that later. So you'll keep going through your schooling, and you're going to talk to other people from other schools. And this is something I didn't notice until kind of near the end. And this applies to four-year schools. 2 years. It's kind of hard to fit a whole lot of this into 2 years. But as far as four-year school degrees go, I noticed that there's two types of degrees. First degree you have is a business degree. So it's the security application side of the business degree. They're like, hey, here's your foundation, here's what you should know, but here's how to apply the actual security part. And then the second one would be more of a science degree. And what happens with the science degree is you get a lot deeper dive into what the computer is doing. Coding, I can't code anything. If you paid me, it's going to be horrible. I can script enough to automate things, but I can't code. That part of my brain does not function. But those people that have a science degree, they came to me when I was an intern. They're like, hey, but we're lost with frameworks and policies. And what about compliance? Isn't compliance important? Yeah, you guys shake your heads. Compliance is important. So they're completely lost on that. So, you'll realize all this, and you'll go through 4 years of hell, and then you'll graduate, and this will be you. You still have no idea what you're doing. And you're going to walk into a business, and you're going to look just like that. But when you do walk into that business, you're going to realize something very quickly, that information security as an industry changes super rapidly. You can go a single day without looking at the news and be left behind. You can't really do that in other IT organizations. It evolves continually. It's kind of the nature of it. And you really do have to stay up to date. And another thing, because of rapid change, I think maturity is an issue. Now, there's a word most college students don't know. Maturity. What degree did you get yours in?
I got a BSBA in Computer Information Systems.
Not
So
a security-
Bachelor of Science.
Okay, not a security degree. Chelsea, did you get a security degree?
Computer networking.
Jake, you got a security degree.
Cyber defense.
Did we ever talk about maturity?
No.
No, maturity was not a word that was mentioned at all. And I'm very surprised when I walked into an enterprise and they're like, maturity. And I walked into a fairly mature enterprise at that. And, you know, a point I want to make too is that I walked into an enterprise and we're here, and I think industry is all, the top of industry is probably here. And then I have friends that are walking into small shops, like small IT places or something smaller. And they're down here and they're building their maturity models and they're actually trying to start them. So we have different challenges on different sides of the scale, but they're equally as difficult. You know, building a new maturity model for a business, it's just as hard as keeping an enterprise's maturity up, I think. And a lot of the companies will be joining, again, for the students, they'll be at the same place. Another thing is, it'd be really nice to see a lot of people learn how to learn. That's something I've had instructors that have tried to show that to us. I'm sure you guys have had people in your life that try to show that to you. You can get shown it as much as you want. If you don't apply it, it doesn't mean anything. So when you do that, you should leverage that, and you should definitely do that while you're in college. So I mentioned the CCDC team. The team that I created was entirely student-centered learning. Is everyone familiar with that concept? You guys can talk to me. Yes? Yes? Okay, sweet. What it is all the students teach each other. There's no instructors. Like, our instructors and our advisors actually sat in the group with the students and learned from us. As freshmen, to walk into the CCDC and win first place as freshmen from that environment was pretty amazing at the time. And again, I use that as a mechanism for learning for both myself and everyone that was included with it. Jake was one of them. So past that, you're going to realize that it's really culture driven, and again, that's something that you don't understand when you're in school. And by culture driven, it's driven by the people. So anyone in information security that's been around long enough will tell you that it's not about a product. A lot of vendors try to sell you a solution to all your problems. That doesn't mean anything. And I would say this because I like to think security is about people, then a process, and then a product. So what you need is you need great people to make a great process to apply to not so great products. So if you can do all three of those really well, you're going to be great. But don't listen to vendors that are like, hey, here's the next generation firewall. This is going to solve all your problems. If you don't have the people that can operate it, it's not going to solve anything. And you'll keep going through industry. Your first year, at least. I'm in my first year. And there's a lot of expectations that aren't so realistic. Again, are driven by college, I think. And Hollywood. You know, how many movies do you see that are just like, click, 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 hack? That doesn't happen in real life. You don't watch Black Hat? Who wants to watch Thor chase down someone in real life? This is a hacker movie. No.
That's how we hand you around.
Yeah.
Swordfish.
Yeah. So it doesn't work like that. One of the things, I'm not a pen tester, but I've talked to a lot of pen testers. They'll tell you, a lot of them have told me that it's about 30% having fun, 70% documentation, and stuff like that. So expect that. That's another thing you don't really expect. Another thing I want people to expect is to fail hard and fail often. That was told to me within my first week of starting my career. I'm so happy that it was, and I don't think it's told to enough people. A lot of people are scared to fail. They're like, oh my God, my boss is going to hate me because I messed this up. I like to be called break fix. I like breaking things. Not critical things, but things I can break, I like to break because then I get to fix them. Actually, there's a funny story later on. So, if your boss can appreciate the fact that you learn from breaking something, you're going to grow, the business is going to grow, your team's going to grow. Another thing is salaries. When I told you I advertised for the school to high schoolers, and I inflated the numbers. I mean, as I worked for the school, I needed those people to be there. I was like, yeah, you can get a $100,000 job right out of college. I mean, looking back at it, I should never have said that. but at the time, I mean, I had a job to keep. So I inflated the numbers a little bit, and unfortunately all colleges do that. 75,000 is even, pushing it. Expect to like 40 to 60, which is great. Don't think that's wrong, because 40 to 60 is great coming out of college. I know a lot of people that don't have jobs coming out of college. And then another thing was expectations. I mentioned Hollywood. I'll give props to Mr. Robot. Who watches Mr. Robot? Everyone in this room should watch Mr. Robot. It's actually a really good study on like the human psyche as well. So it's really cool. But one thing Mr. Robot did really good, and I mentioned it earlier, is that Mr. Robot shows research. They actually showed Elliot researching his targets and doing stuff like that. So that's really cool that it showed that side of the culture, that you don't just go out and push a few buttons and things happen. No, you have to research things. You have to learn how things work, learn how people work. So that was a really cool thing to see on a TV show. Another thing is when you're in school or when you're out of school, research as many things as you can. I'm interested in malware analysis right now. I don't know anything about it yet. Some. I know some. Dan showed me some. It's still way over my head. But I'm really interested in it. So I'm looking into it in my free time. And, what is the future of Blue Team? I think the future of Blue Team is malware analysis. It's on the exact opposite scale of red teaming. The same amount of critical thinking goes into malware analysis as goes into pen testing, I think. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But there's all these jobs in between. You have infrastructure, ops, stuff like that. But malware analysis, I think, is the future. And I want to learn that. Because I did business degree, I didn't do a whole lot of networking. I know how a network operates, but I didn't know how to do packet captures. I mean, I could click capture this packets. What the hell am I looking at? So, recently I've been taking packet captures at home and being like, oh, look, here's the request. This is what's happening. This is actually what's happening. Like, this is what my Xbox is saying to my, everything else. So it's cool to actually see that kind of stuff, and to have that knowledge, and at least research knowledge, is great for interviews. So that's also, you can have that in your pocket. And now the next thing I'm going to say is a very scary, scary, scary word for a college student, or anyone actually, and that's documentation. Yeah, the worst word I could ever have said in front of all of you. Why is documentation scary? That means extra work, I think. So my motto, by the time I got to my junior year in college, I had a motto. Jake and I shared that motto. It was called MER. Yeah. MER stood for minimal effort required. So my instructor was like, hey, I need a 7 to 10 page paper. Guess what he was getting? 7 pages exactly, and nothing more. Unfortunately, that doesn't cut it in industry. If you do really, really, really good documentation while you work on things, the biggest person that's going to thank you is your future self. So here's a story. Recently, I was tasked with setting up a Microsoft hyperconverged solution. Is anyone familiar with that? Yeah.
Tell me more.
So we're trying to put together some proof of concepts, but I was tasked with the Microsoft one. And the way that we wanted to put it together is not officially supported. So I'm trying their supported way, and then I'm going to try to apply it to the way that we want to do it, and then deploy it into our environment. Well, I've never worked with, this is a technical preview too, by the way. So this is Server 2016 TP5. And I'm deploying nano servers into Hyper-V, and I get to the point where I need to log into the nano servers, and if anyone knows about nano servers, there's like core, they're managed remotely. Guess what I did all the way in step 1? I misconfigured the network. and unfortunately, it already tried to join into me. It wouldn't let me in, and I didn't want to really take the time to figure it out. So I had already documented everything that I did, even the scripts that I debugged and created and all that stuff. I even had numbered. 1, this is what this does. 2, this is what this does. So what took me 2 days, because of my documentation, only took me 3 hours. And now I keep going, and I get to the point where I need to put it in the clustered, and then I need to enable storage spaces direct. Guess what? Nano Server Standard does not support storage spaces direct. I didn't know I had to deploy data center. So I had to start over again. And what took me 3 hours before now took me less than half an hour. So having all that stuff documented, A, when you're a break fix like me, helps. But B, if James were to come in there and try doing it after I left, he would have a very nice roadmap on how to do that. Yeah. So it was, I thank myself. I know I did. And anyone else in your job or on your team will thank you. So if you are able to apply all of this, hopefully you can. I think you'll hit success. Now, I want to go further and define what I think real success is, and I think real success is creating new knowledge and giving that knowledge back to the community. Obviously, that's what this industry is built on, I think. And then you get out of it what you put into it. Does anyone know Bloom's taxonomy? No? Okay, it's a learning model. Creation is at the very top. So creation is the pinnacle of learning, according to Bloom's taxonomy. So if you can create something, you have mastered that subject, and you can give that knowledge back to the people to start the process all over again. That's what I think success is. So I went further and asked for people in the industry. I didn't want to just give just my advice. So 2 questions I asked them is, what do new people in the industry struggle with? And when I say new, it means more than just students coming out of college. It means anyone transitioning into security. And then what would you recommend to security students, which I think everyone is a security student, focus on before moving into the industry? The first person I asked was Janae Bajorek. Everyone know Janae? You guys, CBI knows Janae.
Oh, yeah.
Janae is the CBI Academy Liaison. She does some pretty good things. So when I asked her the first question, she gave me the best answer I could ever gotten from her. And that was, grads struggle with an entry point into InfoSec. Would everyone agree with that? There's no clear entry point at all. Regular IT, when you do regular IT, everyone kind of knows the traditional route is you start at help desk. Am I right? You guys place people at help desk first. Generally. Okay. So InfoSec does not have that tiered structure like that. You can start anywhere in InfoSec. You can start at auditing. You can start in compliance. You can start, I know people that started as engineers and are now doing all sorts of things. So the entry point is very not clear. Another struggle is information overload. I remember talking to Jake his first few weeks at the CBI Academy, and he was like, wow, that's a lot to take in. And I remember my first few weeks at Consumers on the first ever security job I ever had. I would come home and I would just pass out and my brain hurt. I took in so much information, which is a good thing. But you just can't function the rest of the day. You go home and you just turn everything off and you're just out. So that's something you just have to get past. It's a struggle. I've seen some people really struggle with it and some people embrace it. Another thing she told me of what you can do is you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable right now, and this is why I'm doing this, because I want to get comfortable. And more than that, you need to acclimate to the culture. It's different than any other IT industry. And get comfortable with vernacular and what people say and stuff like that. Just get used to it. And then obviously have all the basics down. Know how a network works. Know coding, know how coding works fundamentally. I can't write code, but I know process trees and I know how things are happening. Yeah. I know it's there somewhere in someone's job description. And on top of all of that, know math. I mean, I know math is another scary thing to say, but math is very important in any IT. And again, I did this at Converge. I want to plug CBI. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I think they're doing great things with offering people an entry point, which is really cool. So if you're interested in CBI, talk to Wolf or Janae, Jason maybe. No, okay, not Jason. Sorry. He can put you in the right direction. I think it's a great thing. As an advocate for education or furthering people, I think CBI Academy is a great thing that they have going on. The second person I asked is Jim Beachy, Executive Director of Information Security at Consumers Energy, my boss. So I asked Janae. Janae works with college students when they're in college and right when they come out of college. Jim works with industry professionals that have been working there for 30 plus years. Very, very smart people. He manages them excellently. And he gave me some really good advice when I asked him. And the first thing he said is, understand that you don't know jack. That's a quote. So I really appreciate this because when I walked into his team, that was me. I thought I knew a lot more than what I actually did. And it took me a while to understand that that's okay. And it wasn't until he told me that's okay that I was fully aware that, hey, I don't know things. Let me go ask. So it's really great to understand that when you walk out of a college or out of an IT position, you're not going to really know anything. Julian, you just came out of college. Did you struggle?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Still struggle.
Yeah. Would Jim tell you that same thing?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just did.
Just did.
Last week.
Perfect. I think that's a great thing to tell any student, lifelong learner, anything.
It never changes.
Never changes. No. I mean, try raising a family. You really don't know what you're doing. So another thing he told me is work hard, learn hard. Kyle. Oh, Kyle, what's happening?
Sorry.
No. So when he told me work hard, learn hard, I wanna go on that. You spend all this time when you're in college learning. Who says learning needs to stop? So when you're at work, you put a lot of effort into work. You take pride in your work. We're all IT people. We go home and we have side projects. You know, I have an ESXi environment at home. You know, I like my side projects. Everyone else has side projects. I've seen Jason's basement. He's got a massive side project. Jake, you got them. Everyone has them. You're nodding your head. Why not put that same effort into what you're doing at work, into your projects at home? And again, you're just gonna, if you do that, all you're gonna be doing is more learning. And we signed up as lifelong learners when we joined security, by the way, if you didn't know that. Another thing, again, I mentioned the transition from IT. He's taken in a lot of IT people. And one of the things that is unique to security as an IT function-ish is that security is way more focused on information confidentiality. And if you come from an IT, especially an infrastructure role, all you care about is availability. So you get a lot of people that are just like, oh, wait, what do you mean this? You know, we're not the same function. We're close, not the same, very different goals. And that's something that IT people need to change their way of thinking when they join into that. And now I work in OT, which is different than both of them. It's kind of a blend. So it's really fun. So since I last gave this talk, I actually added myself as industry advice, as a member of industry, not someone transitioning. I needed an extra slide. No. Yeah. But I've been in industry for almost a year now, so I think I can
So
give.
you're an expert.
I am an expert. Yeah. 8 months is expert, right there. 10 months is expert. So one of the things I want to tell people is you need to put effort when you're in school. One thing I thought was the best thing that I did was I found a cohort. One of them sitting right there. There's more other places. These are going to be the people that challenge you. Just like when you get into industry and you're going to have, Kyle challenged me with PowerShell. I love PowerShell now, but if it wasn't for Kyle, I would not have really taken on PowerShell. I would have been scared of PowerShell, but
You use Python.
yeah, all that, no, yeah. Anyway, so like your cohort is going to be the same exact people as like, or they're going to serve the same function as your team when you get into industry. So these people challenged me, and on top of that, they've been great contacts for me now that I'm outside of school. And I was fortunate enough to have friends for life, so I've really enjoyed that I did that. And I know a lot of people that just float through college and don't talk to anyone. You're cutting yourself short. Another thing is, I tell people to find their own internships. Again, those people that float through college, they rely on the school to find them internships. I'm from Jackson. Everyone in Jackson that's from Jackson knows consumers is where you want to work if you want to work in IT. So when I started school, I told my wife, I was like, I really want to work at consumers. You know people that work there, and they're just like, oh, it's just a great place. But how am I going to get there? You can have a goal, but if you don't have a plan to get there, it's worthless. So I made an active effort to show the people, to network and show the people that were there, hey, I can be value to your business. And I did that on my own free time. So when it came time to like, hey, we're looking for an intern, I raised my hand and said, hey, I would love to intern. And they're like, in the middle of my conversation, stopped me and said I was in. And a week later, I was in. So the fact that I went and proved myself to them beforehand showed that I can get into wherever I wanted to be. Now you have a lot of people that use internships through the school. You can't really do anything like that in a 30-minute interview. What if I got an interview to Google and it's over the phone? They don't know you as a person. They don't know what you're capable of. They see what you've done on paper. That doesn't mean anything. So when they know you as a person, it's really great. Another friend of mine was coming to the end of his degree, and he was really excited about this internship he got, and I was baffled by it. So I like to make money. I hope you guys all like to make money. How old's Keenan? 31? 30-ish? And you know, he's got a wife and stuff, and he's like, hey, I just got this unpaid internship. I was like, what do you mean unpaid internship? This is an internship that I would have looked over because it was unpaid. I would not even have given a second glance at it. But he told me something that I didn't realize until he told me. And that was, he looked at the potential that that internship had. Yes, he has 10 weeks of free work. Free work doing what he loves to do. And at the end of that 10 weeks, he got offered a full-time position, great pay, pen testing now. I didn't look at the potential of that. So I hope if any college students are listening to this, you look at the potential that an unpaid internship or any internship can offer you as a person. A second thing was, after I gave this talk the first time, I got some interesting feedback on Twitter. Cyber IR UK, his name's Sam, he's a security researcher in London. He challenged me to define entry point further. He came from IT and was like, it'd be really great if you defined entry point. And I thought about it a lot for like a long time. And guess what? I don't think you can define entry point into InfoSec. You know, I tried every route. I was like, what about this? What about that? There is no clear entry point. Just like Janae said, nothing. You can't do it. It's different for every single person. Yeah.
Don't you just hack a large multinational conglomerate and they give you a job?
Oh yeah,
Isn't that how that goes?
yeah. I thought that's how it went. They didn't catch me yet. No. Yeah. I mean, I think nowadays people go to jail for that. So at one point in history that did happen. But I mean, look at people with different backgrounds. You're on the engineering team. You know, you're more of an engineer person. You know, you wouldn't fit very well in operations. That's, you know, your background. So yeah, you did learn PowerShell from Kyle. So I mean, like everyone has a very different function. So to break into it, you know, if you're infrastructure from a university or from an engineering team beforehand, it's gonna be tailored to what your skills already are. You just have to change your mindset. Now the next point. Need some water.
The tiniest water bottle.
The tiniest water bottle. Thank you. Tech systems, everyone. The next point I want to give you some background on. I was having a beer with my best friend in Normal, Illinois, of all places. And he's an electrical engineer at Union Pacific. And more importantly, he's a supervisor there. And he gave me this perspective that I never had before. And he told me the very, very best thing that his crew can ask him is why. So many people nowadays do not ask why. They just do things. And I don't even want to say nowadays. I think people have always done that. It's just kind of what we do. Our boss told us to do something. Do it. Why? You know, no one really asks why. And now if you think about his response to that, he's working with a railroad. People's lives are at risk if you do something wrong on a railroad. You know, there's derailments, there's all sorts of things. So you wouldn't want to do something you don't fully understand, you know, until you actually understand it, because you're like, what if I put someone's life at risk? Well, in information security, isn't it kind of the same thing? I mean, in some places there is actual lives. Like, what if I did something to ruin the power grid? You know, people can, you know, die from that. But their digital lives are just as important to them, right? So we won't want to put any of that at risk. Ask why. Just last week, I picked my son up from daycare. He's 3. So he follows me around and he asks why a lot. He's like, why this? And we're in the car. And he says, and we drove by my work. He says, Dad, why do you work? And I was like, well, you know, son, to make money. He says, well, why do you make money? And I said, so we can have nice things. And then he said one thing after that. He says, why? I still don't have the answer to that. But what I'm trying to get is that I want everyone to be the 3-year-old that walks around asking why for everything, and that way you fully understand it. And when you're done asking why, keep asking why. Why, when you ask someone that, it can be explained differently by every single person you ask, unless it's from a textbook. Experience has changed the answer to that, which will just broaden your knowledge on it. And on top of that, the question why is a question of foundational interest. So fundamental interest. So it's a really important thing to ask, and I don't think enough people ask it. So I had in here advice for managers. I forgot to change that to industry. I'm going to do something that corporations don't like. You need to help the millennials. Millennials is a word on a corporate list of things not to say. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. There's quite a few of them in this room today. we're digital natives. We grew up in the cloud. We use the internet for everything. It's different. So there's parts of millennials' brains that operate differently than other people. So or the older generations. So if they were to just accept that on a different level than what's happening right now. This has not happened to me. However, I do know some people that it has happened to, and it's very unfortunate. It'd be really great if people were to be like, hey, we know you learn differently than us. Let's see what we can do to fix that. And on top of that, younger generation, you need to capture as much information as you can from the older generations, and then thank them for that, because we don't thank anyone for anything. So please, if you did those two things, like your work environment will be way better. Secondly, support the colleges and events. Again, CCDC. It'd be great if we had actual like corporate sponsorship. Maybe things would fully functionally work every year. Yeah.
I could probably post it.
Yeah. You know, obviously MySec, this is an event, so it's great that people are out here. National Cyber League. Does anyone know about National Cyber League? That starts in high school. That's basically like a cyber competition that starts in high school, and you have mentors from college and industry. Can you imagine if I was hiring someone and I sponsored an event? I would love to sponsor National Cyber League, because then I could capture a person that I would really like to have. You know, this person is very, very, very talented, and they're good at what they do. They're a good person. I would like to watch them grow from high school all the way through college, inject them with the knowledge that I have, and then hire them when they're done with college. Isn't that the person you'd want to hire? No. Yeah. If I was hiring someone, that's who I would hire.
Ideas are good.
Color
for
commentary.
things.
Yeah.
Two things.
What?
I mean, any idea I have is probably great for a supervillain or a three-letter government agency.
All right.
So
Perfect.
you don't want to hire that guy.
All right, so moving on. The last thing is one word that I get told often and I don't listen to, and I'm probably the least qualified person to give this one piece of advice. And again, it's one word, and that word is patience. I don't have patience for anything, unfortunately. But I know people that do, and I've watched them grow very successfully. When you're in school, you should be patient while you're in school. Obviously, starting school is very, intimidating, because you're like, where's the end? It's 4 years away. Sorry. I just started my master's degree on Saturday. Thank you. I already want it to be done, but then at the same time, I'm looking at it. I'm like, this is very different than my undergrad. I want to take the time to learn the things that they want to teach me. So I'm going to try to be patient in school. Be patient while looking for your job. It's because I just graduated. I know a lot of people that just are looking for jobs right now. A lot of us were fortunate enough to get some, and I know some that haven't gotten a job yet. They're stronger people than me, because I'd be freaking out. So which is great for them, and they're patient, and it's amazing. Be patient in your job, and what that means is every job functions differently. If you've worked in different corporations, you know that processes and all that kind of stuff is all different. So what you do one way at one company, you're going to do it differently in another. Take the time to learn that so you don't mess anything up. Another thing, when you be patient in your job, something I've learned specifically moving over to OT team, you need to earn the trust of your team, and that takes time. You can't walk in and be like, I know everything, and hit the ground running. I didn't really do that. I tried to do that, but backed off really quickly once I learned that it's not anything that I've ever done before. But I know a lot of people that don't take the time to do that, and they fail. So be patient in earning the trust of your team, and they will support you as much as you support them. Last thing, I did mention CCDC. The collegiate competitive landscape. Unfortunately, that entire, not just CCDC, all these competitions have pitted schools against each other. If anyone knows anyone that's been in college, will know that we all don't like each other. Why?
You've been told to do so.
Yeah, because all we care about is winning. Because I want a trophy. So, and I think that is wrong. There's no communication between the schools. And because of this, we as an industry and at college level, are not inspiring the right culture at the very first level. So, if I competed, so I came from Baker College of Jackson. Baker College of Flint, same system. We are the same school, different campus. They would freak if I had their playbook. But why? We're the same school. Like, it didn't make sense. And I say that because we actually did end up with their playbook. They left it in the hotel room. We did return it. But still, it did happen. So, but why? We're the same school. We have the same, at the very top level, the same president of the college. It's the same person. So why would we care if they have their playbook? And I would like to advocate everyone shares all their playbooks, and that's currently something that's not shared with a lot of other people. Yes.
Doesn't this culture inspire more, scrimmage, more red team, blue team though?
Only internally, and if you have the infrastructure to do it, they wouldn't do it against each other. And think of a university who doesn't have the funding to create their own infrastructure. To run something like a red team, blue team. They're doing it all every day. They go and they make their VMs because deep freeze gets rid of them at the end of the day. So you're wasting time. A lot of schools don't have that. I was fortunate enough to have this, and I know part of my perspective on this is a little skewed. Baker's a nonprofit. If we asked for something, as long as we could justify it, we kind of got it. We had a very nice server setup, physical PF SenseBox, physical Palo Altos, virtual servers, NetLab sitting on top of a vCenter. We're fortunate enough to have that. But I know a lot of colleges that don't have that, and they struggle with that. And it's like, well, how can I use this to help them? I actually have a plan right now. If I can ever get the school to give us a public IP address, I can open that up to other colleges and eventually start scrimmaging. Eventually. Right now they have to drive. Because of this, you'll eventually be working with your enemies. Again, Baker College Jackson. I now work with someone who graduated from Jackson College. When I was in school, he was my enemy. Now he's a really good friend of mine, and I've learned a lot from that guy. Unfortunately, he's not here right now. And recently, because I started at Eastern for my master's. Last Friday I went to their first Information Assurance Student Association meeting of the fall, and I sat there in that meeting, and I was like, wow, these people used to be an enemy. And I know a lot of those people from competing and from community. But when I introduced myself, I was like, hey, I'm Ben. I was captain of Baker. And I got booed. And I fully understand why I got booed. But why? Why did I get booed? I mean, I'm there to help them. And I hope they realize that. But as I sat there, I looked at everything they were doing right and really, 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 really good. And I was looking at everything that they were doing bad or that they could improve on, which was awesomely the exact opposite of what I did with my team. So I'm sitting there with a perspective on both sides of the fence. I see what they can improve on and what they're doing really good, and you want to support them, what they're doing really good, and help them improve. And then on the team I used to lead, I see the same thing. I would like to help both teams and hopefully create a community that helps everyone in the process. I'm hoping that will work. And as an educator, because I'm doing my master's because I want to teach. Right now I can't really teach without one. I hope I can create that community, at least starting in Lower Michigan. And again, because of this culture mishap, we lose focus on security as a whole. I say this a lot, and if you've talked to me ever or listened to this one before, you're gonna hear this. When Target happened, did everyone boo Target? This is the question. No.
Kind of did.
If you were a victim, I know a lot of victims that were like, "Come on, Target." But what actually happened at a high level is everyone booed the InfoSec industry, not Target. Target didn't fail. Information security as a whole failed, and that's something a lot of people don't understand, especially if you're looking looking inward. Another thing, Heartbleed. I was not around when Heartbleed happened. I was still a student. If I was in IT, or if I was a consumer, or I was someone not in security, and I heard that this program that encrypts my data is severely flawed, what would my first reaction be? Get rid of it and get something new, right? Right? Am I? Yes, Jason. Okay. From the outside, that's what you would think. But what really happened is that corporate rivals rallied behind open source projects. They're like, maybe if we fund these people more, we'll get a better product. Which is great, because a lot of people didn't know OpenSSL was open source. So the fact that they rallied together to build a platform was great, and not something you would ever see out of college students. So hopefully they can get that. So what I went over today was InfoSec as a college student, what InfoSec is like as a professional. There's a gap and you need to learn how to bridge it. Then tips from and for industry. And I want to leave you off on one thing. Dear friend of mine, Ben Clark, he was going to be here. He couldn't make it. He just recently got hired with Jackson National Life. They're building a SOC right now. I think he started like a month ago. Within his first few days, he tweeted something, and it really caught my eye. And it was this: beyond daunted by the minds I work with, hoping to keep this confidence and make myself even more proud. That should have way more than 2 likes. If people knew what he was doing, like if they knew that he walked into an environment full of knowledge, and he was open-minded enough and confident enough to know that he needs to capture that information, every person walking into any job anywhere should have that attitude. And if you have that attitude, you're going to do way better. You're going to succeed and leave everyone else behind. Like that, Benjamin Clark, Firewall. That's the end. Any questions? I can be contacted on Twitter. I'm really active on Twitter at Taco Pirate. BenCarroll@live.com. There's my family. We like to run on Sunday mornings. Questions?
Why?
Why? Why? I'm doing this to hopefully help people, get a better perspective on the transition into security is different in a lot of different industries.
That question.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your thoughts on all the certs that people are needing?
You know what? I was surprised I was not asked that the first time. I do have a viewpoint on certs. I think when you're in college, certs and you're moving into your first job, I think certs will set you apart. But I think they should be very broad certifications. I know a lot of people that are like, well, I'm going to get this vendor certification. And unless you're already in a job, a vendor cert doesn't really mean anything. I mean, this place uses McAfee, and then you go somewhere that uses Symantec. So I would even consider the CCNA. CCNA is technically a vendor cert, but it's much more of an overview, because this is actually a conversation I had Friday. It's definitely a vendor cert, but it's also, yeah.
Go ahead and finish.
No, well, I other than the CCNA, don't do any vendor certs unless you're in a position that it's actually gonna apply to you. Utilize it. Yeah, if you can't utilize it, it's a waste of time and money. So yeah, I didn't do any certs. I was confident enough that the stuff that I built and the people that I worked with, I honestly think can take the place of certs, if you can prove it. Jason.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's literally verbatim what I was just going to say, is that I don't believe in certs either.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, I guess from my perspective, if you're going to do something, it's got to be skills-based.
Right.
Network Plus, that would be a fantastic one if you're moving out into the industry, because again, it's a general skill that you must know. And of course, you talked about it during your talk, is that networking would be an important skill, and if you don't have that skill, you're going to be at the help desk level, right?
Right.
You're not going out there and doing some next level stuff because you've already got that base.
Yep.
That's my opinion.
Any other questions? Yeah. No. All right. Sweet.
Great job.
Thank you, guys. Really hot in here.
It's so warm.
Sorry, guys.
You're sweating when you're talking, though. That's just
Yeah,
naturally
yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Not to mention you don't sit still.
I don't.
Yeah,
sit
you are moving.
I told him, I was like, put the camera back because I move a lot. Go, continue.
That's our first MySec Lansing. So, what do you guys think so far? Yeah, great
Awesome.
job. Is anyone interested in giving a talk for MySec Lansing? If you are, come talk to me or James. Take your name down, get your topics, and probably get your schedule. Also, does Tech Systems want to say anything for letting us use their space? And
Yeah, thanks for joining. Sorry it was cramped. We'll look at helping to furnish a bigger space next time. But for those of you guys that don't know, Tech Systems are the largest IT staffing and services, so probably partner with pretty much every company that you guys work with or have heard of. So if you have any questions or want any other information, or just even learn a little bit more about what's going on, feel free to hang around afterwards, or I can pass out our information as well. Yeah. And then Michaela specifically, she's focused on InfoSec, so that's what she does day in and day out, talking to individuals, fresh out of school or are, you know, been in the industry for 20 years.
If you guys have any questions, I've actually done a lot of work with Fair State. That's where I went to school, so natural area for me to go back to. But they also have a great InfoSec program, undergraduate and master's, as well as Baker. And then I've been talking to a lot of students also from like Lansing Community College as well. So we have a lot of opportunities with some SOCs with some of our clients like Jackson National Life, Michigan State Police, Michigan State University probably will in the next couple months, and then potentially with consumers as well. So if you need a resource, we'd love to, you know, help you out and be that for you. I'll have my cards out here. I'd love to talk with anybody that's interested in having additional help.
Utilize them. I know a few people have been places you guys.
How
Great.
does Ferris do in the collegiate
so
competitions?
I don't know. Great. I actually worked with someone who graduated from Ferris. We sat next to each other, and we actually competed against each other. So we had a lot of fun stories to share.
Very cool. Yeah.
And that's actually where I initially got my business and science degree. Transition, look a perspective was of like we're talking to each other, and it's like, well, I don't know frameworks, I don't know any of that stuff. And I was like, well, yeah, at least you can code. You know, so that's actually where I developed that perspective. Was with a Ferris student.
I liked your point too with the internships. That's been huge. I know Elena and I, you know, I recruit, so I know the professionals. Elena does the work with the businesses. The internship experience are critical. It's the difference between, you know, a candidate who might look very similar and someone who has, you know, even 6 months working more hands-on or has an interesting exposure that helps. So
right.
I like that you made that point there.
Yeah, another thing with internships, I noticed you kind of get a lot of leeway. So when I say break fix, do it while you're an intern. You can kind of get away with it then. So internships are very important.
But again, thanks for coming out here, seeing our space, and looking forward to watching this group grow.
You guys were too hot. Get more water.
What?
Can I throw a little info up?
Sure.
CBI next month will be holding another one of its training sessions. It's about $100, I believe. I don't know the exact date. Some of the people in here have actually taken them. We go through about 10 hours of Linux skills training, taking you everything from all of the tools that are included in most Linux distributions, all the way to actually hacking into some things. It's really cool. It's kind of a boot camp. Just really accelerated. It's a lot of fun. We feed you both breakfast and lunch, and then snacks throughout the entire day. We also have a hacker treasure hunt coming up. So anybody, if you just want to follow CDIIT on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, you'll be able to get this stuff. But the hacker treasure hunt's pretty fun. You'll be able to do it from anywhere, opposed to actually going to the Ferndale office for the training, but you'd be able to do that from Lansing, Jackson, wherever you happen to be in from. There's a $25 entry fee, but there's a huge WWE style belt that you can get your name on.
It's
you know,
impressive.
It's
It's impressive.
So it's a really interesting thing and game to play. It's a lot of fun. As well, one quick shout out about the Academy. We have Academy 5 coming up. What does that mean exactly? Well, we have kind of a paid education, right? We have just a ton of people come and they apply, and we take a few of these individuals and give them an internship, if you will, but it's paid. It's a paid opportunity to go to school for 2 years, and you just get crammed with a lot of information.
With benefits.
What's that?
With benefits.
Yeah, so right out of the gate, you know, you could conceivably be making, you know, $30,000 to $50,000 to go to school for 2 years per year. So that's an opportunity that you can also take part in at CBI, follow CBI, and see if you can get in there. It's a tough crowd. We had 533 applicants in the last round, and 4 of them, which 3 of them are here, actually made it through. So, you know, good luck if you decide to check it out.
So, is there a way like to get that information like in our email or something?
We could.
Yeah, I mean, CBI is not affiliated with any of this. You know, it'd be cool, but just follow CBI. I mean, we're on everything. Yeah, so Creative Breakthroughs Inc.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Anything else?
And after this?
Yeah, there's Kelly's, I think. down the way. So if anybody's interested, we're gonna try and go there and hang out for a little bit. But otherwise, I think we're done here. Thanks.